So a couple days ago, I reviewed Batman, and I thought it was pretty good. You know, it's good. I think it's a good Batman movie. But apparently Ben Shapiro disagrees. So today we're gonna look at the probably worst take on the Batman movie. Of course, spoilers ahead. And also I'm not gonna talk about politics because listen, I'm a simple man. I don't care. I only watch Ben Shapiro for his hot takes on movies, okay? Listen, don't attack me. I'm just the messenger. But before this video starts, about 0% of you guys are subscribed. I don't know the number. That's probably wrong. Hit the subscribe button. I'm trying to make a living here, okay? Please. I'm dying. But anyway, on with the Ben Shapiro review.
So last night I went and saw The Batman. Went and saw it with my wife. It is 1 million hours long.
Yeah, I will say the movie is kind of long. Not in like the time span, but in the pacing. The movie does kind of bait you into thinking it's gonna end. Like when they go into the diner and they get Riddler, I'm like, oh, okay, this is cool. They're gonna end right here, leave it on a little cliffhanger. You know, you're gonna end with the scene that's in the trailers where it's the crane shot where it goes over and it shows the coffee and it's got the question mark in it. It is spooky. But no, then it just kept going. But I went and watched again and it wasn't that bad. I knew it wasn't gonna end there. So I was like, all right, strap in this time.
And it's one of those movies where I started off and I was like, okay. And then I got a little further in, and I was like, all right. And then I got to the end, I was like, meh. And then the more I thought about it, the angrier I became.
This isn't a nitpick. I'm not even gonna comment on his opinion there. But I see that he's wearing black. Everything in the room is black, and the background is red.
And so you're about to hear a lot of hot takes on the Batman because I hate
this movie.
Is he having a Joker moment? I think he's having a Joker moment. Something just fell out of my window.
All right, this is Detective Batman. So if the original Michael Keaton Batman was sort of crime-fighting Batman, and the Christopher Nolan Batman was city-saving Batman, this Batman is supposed to be Detective Batman. And this has a long history in the Batman comics. Some of the best Batman comics, particularly my favorite, The Long Halloween, is rooted in the idea of Batman not just as Caped Crusader, but as a great detective.
I doubt he has ever read a comic book. Just something about him. He was the kid who only read Lord of the Rings and then other books that the school forced him to read, and he liked those books and read them by himself, like he read them willingly. So the fact that he said he reads comic books, that I don't buy it. Tell me one thing in a comic book.
I'm going to start with what's right with the film because it's going to be real short. So what's right with the film is that it looks great. It is a film noirish take on Gotham City. It almost feels kind of like retro Taxi Driver Gotham City. So everything is very dirty. It's all taking place at night. It's shot in kind of grayscale at times.
You see, I don't know if he knows what the term grayscale is. I think he just saw that phrase and was like, oh, it means monochromatic. It doesn't mean monochromatic. It means quite literally black and white, and it's not shot black and white. Of course, there is a lot of black and white in this movie, but in every scene, there is at least some color. Like, there might be a pixel of color in one frame, and that's all you get, but that's still monochromatic. It's not shot in grayscale. Already his opinions on films are being shattered because he doesn't know terminologies. Just in the future, Ben, it's monochromatic, not grayscale. I know you know big words.
It's got a lot of warm oranges and reds, but against a very dark black. So it's a lot of muttered dialogue. It feels as though it's taking place in the same city as Joker is taking place. So if you saw Joker, Todd Phillips' Joker, which looks like 1970s New York, it feels almost like the other half of that, but it seems more like the take on what future New York would look like if you were living in New York in 1970. That's sort of a good way of putting it.
No, it's just Gotham. I'm pretty sure 70s versions of the future looked very different than what they are now. For example, the Jetsons. I think that's their version of the future. I'm agreeing with him, but yet he's so wrong at the same time.
The music to the film is okay. I think that Michael Giacchino tends to be a little bit derivative in how he does the scores to the films. This one, he basically takes the music that Hans Zimmer and James Newton Howard wrote for Batman Begins in the Nolan trilogy, which the theme goes da da. And here he just inverts it. So instead of da da, it's da da. Okay, fine. So it's a little bit derivative.
I don't think that's what it's going for at all. The main theme is based off of Something in the Way by Nirvana, which is a pretty good song. At least it is in this movie. If you were going to call similarities between them, it just sounds like Imperial March. It just sounds like it. That's what it sounds like. And honestly, it's a good thing. I know Ben has a musical background, and I know he's classically trained violinist, but just saying he inverts it and that it's derivative, is that all you have to say?
The acting is okay, as we'll find out in a second. They give Robert Pattinson nothing to do as Batman. Nothing to do as Batman.
What?
Paul Dano gives a good performance in the film, although he's sort of playing the Joker a little bit, although he's playing it more wide-eyed, as Paul Dano is apt to do.
How is he playing the Joker? If your only point that he's playing the Joker is that he's kind of crazy, newsflash, all of Batman's villains are crazy. Scarecrow is crazy. Joker, obviously crazy. Harley Quinn, crazy. Mr. Freeze, crazy. The Penguin. You could say the Penguin in this movie is playing Joker. Just play any clip from the car chase. He sounds like he's just laughing, of course, but you could just say, oh yeah, he's playing Joker because he's laughing. Just shut up.
The main character of the film is the Riddler.
No! The Riddler is not the main character. Compare how long Batman is in it, and then compare how long Riddler is in it. You could make this argument for Infinity War because Thanos has most of the screen time. You could say, oh, Thanos is the main character of that movie. Sure, that is a valid argument to be made, but not in this movie. Riddler is probably in it maybe 20%, and just because the movie revolves around his murders doesn't mean he is the main character of the movie. Batman is way more of the character of this movie.
The biggest problem with the film is not the wokeness. Yes, there's some woke touches. You have Catwoman, who is a woman of color.
This doesn't matter what side of the aisle you are. Why do political commentators always have to bring up, like, race? If you look down the history of Catwoman, all of them, the old 1966 TV show, all the way up until now, Catwoman has been played by black actors. The Catwoman movie, which is not good, by the way, even though it's bad, it's still a woman of color. Also, way back in the Adam West run of the 1966 Batman TV show, Catwoman, I'm pretty sure, was first played by a black actor. Catwoman has been race swapped many times. So it happening now doesn't matter. Anyone can play Catwoman, and it works fine.
Fine, whatever. I don't really care about that. That's fine. You have Catwoman say stuff about white privileged elites, and she makes a suggestion that Bruce Wayne is a child when his parents were killed. He doesn't really have a right to be super upset about that because, of course, he was very, very rich.
Catwoman doesn't make that distinction. It's Riddler who makes that distinction. And the Riddler says that out of jealousy because he is an orphan as well. And also Thomas Wayne, when he died, the Renewal Project kind of did orphans dirty after that.
The film despises Batman. So every Batman iteration has to explain why a man who is a billionaire would dress up like a bat and go around beating up criminals. It's not answered. And the director doesn't know. And the writer doesn't know. And this is the problem.
Maybe the reason they don't touch on it that much is because we already know why he does it. Parents died. He's depressed. Wants to clean Gotham of corruption because that's what killed his parents. Have you ever watched a Batman movie? Have you ever watched anything? I don't want exposition dump on why he wants to do it. In this movie, his goal is to cleanse Gotham of corruption, and at the end of the movie, he just reinvents how he's going to do that.
So in the Nolan films, to take the contrast, the question as to why Batman does this is because if Batman does not actually intimidate the criminal underworld because the city is so corrupt, no one else will do it, and money isn't going to solve the problem. And so he needs to create a theatrical kind of fear in order to dissuade the criminal underworld from participating. And then, as it turns out, he also has to save the city itself and demonstrate his faith in the city by becoming a symbol. Here, you don't really know why Batman is doing what he's doing.
It's literally the same reason. He says it in the monologue. He says it in the monologue of his opening scene. He says, hey, I'm fighting crime. I don't know if it's going to work out too much, though, because there's a lot of crime in Gotham, and money's not going to save the problem. I swear he only watched this movie once.
It's never explained. He's very wealthy. He doesn't apparently do anything with his wealth. He doesn't try to give charity. This is actually made a plot point. He's a bad man because he's white. He's a bad white man who doesn't actually give charity. He's not involved, and he's not playing that as a role.
He probably doesn't give charity because he doesn't know who he can trust in the city. The Renewal Project, which if you even watched the movie you would know, The renewal project was corrupt, and that was made by Thomas Wayne, which is his father. And if you can't trust that, he can't really trust anything. And also, this is a broken version of Batman. Batman is the only persona Bruce Wayne has left. He doesn't have Bruce Wayne publicly or privately. He has Batman.
Again, this is part of the problem, is that Bruce Wayne and Batman are the same character. So if you, I keep using the Nolan comparison because it is the gold standard for all superhero movies, not just Batman movies.
Ugh, people who say this are annoying.
So when you look at Nolan's Batman, Bruce Wayne is the character that Batman is playing. Okay, Bruce Wayne is not real. Batman is real. Batman is who Bruce Wayne really is. And so he has to play a fop. In Batman Begins, he's squiring around ladies in his Lamborghini, and he's buying hotels, and he's doing all of this just to cover up for the fact that he is Batman. So you get very separate Batman and Bruce Wayne. You get the same thing actually with Michael Keaton. Batman and Bruce Wayne are two different characters. Here, Batman and Bruce Wayne are the exact same character. There are points where Bruce Wayne is walking around. He's got the same dour expression, same glazed look, same kind of emo thing going on as Batman does the entire movie. And so there's no dichotomy.
I thought that was an interesting way they did Bruce Wayne. The public persona of Bruce Wayne is that he's never come out, and when he does, it's very rare, and the press like taking pictures of him because he never goes out. I liked this version of Bruce Wayne, but I do think they should bring in some of that philanthropy, billionaire, playboy act in later movies in this universe.
So here's the actual plot of the film. Batman has only been Batman for a couple of years, so he's not really good at Batmaning yet. And he is tracking down criminals, and he gets drawn into a plot by the Riddler. The Riddler is giving clues so that Batman can track down all the way through the system of Gotham this citywide corruption that apparently is going to bring down the entire superstructure of faith in the city. Meanwhile, you have Catwoman, who's Selena Kyle, played by Zoe Kravitz. And Zoe Kravitz is similarly engaged in an attempt to commit a robbery against one of these underworld figures, but she's drawn into Batman's orbit by a murder that both of them are investigating at the same time, the murder of her roommate, maybe something more going on there. The Riddler is the main villain of the movie. You see the Penguin a fair bit. Carmine Falcone is one of the big characters in the movie. You get a little bit of Alfred. Of course, you get Jim Gordon, whose main job in this film is apparently just to say Jesus over and over again.
Christ, it's Coulson.
I pointed this out in my review, but I completely understand why they did that. This is a cop who is one of the only few good cops in the movie, and he is slowly figuring out that the higher-ups of the police force and government in general are all corrupt. The DA's office, the commissioner, all corrupt. So when you realize that you're fighting a losing battle, you kind of start panicking, which is kind of what he does.
Whenever something bad happens, he just goes, Jesus. And that happens like 6 times. Like Jim Gordon does nothing except for basically stop Batman from getting arrested a lot. That's pretty much all he does. He's a bad detective. He doesn't do anything.
He helps Batman get into crime scenes. He helps Batman break out of the police office. And he just overall helps Batman with the investigation. To say that he does nothing it's just wrong.
The plot is that all these people get killed. Batman uncovers it. He realizes that his dad was corrupt also, or that his dad engaged in corruption with Carmine Falcone. Finally, we get to the end. Paul Dano does it's such a ripoff of Seven. He gives himself up. He doesn't get captured by Batman. Batman does not prevent a single one of these deaths. Batman, in fact, is complicit in one of the deaths by accident.
I don't know. He's not complicit in any of them. I'm going to assume you're thinking of the DA with the bomb strapped around his neck. I'm going to assume you're talking about that, but the only reason that guy died was because he knew the answer. He just wouldn't say it. So that's the DA's fault. Batman was trying to help him. Batman was solving the riddles for him. So to say that he was complicit again is wrong.
And he doesn't actually capture the Riddler because he's clever. The Riddler gives himself up by sitting at a diner and getting arrested. Then he unleashes a bombing of Gotham that essentially causes the flooding of the city. And Batman goes to the Madison Square Garden, where a mayoral event is now being held for the brand new mayor, who is an uplifting black female who has no other story or backstory, so she's really uninteresting.
How much exposition do you want? This is a mayor who is good. That's all you really need to know about that character. You don't need to know that much else about that character. Do you want an entire HBO Max series about this character and why they're such a good character? I don't want that, and I don't think you do either.
It starts to flood, and up on top, in the wings, are a bunch of Paul Dano's followers, are a bunch of the Riddler's followers who are all dressed like the Riddler, and they are shooting down into the crowd to try and kill members of the elite in Gotham City. And so Batman goes up there and he's beating people up. There comes a point where he's beating this guy and he's really like maybe beating him almost to death. And he stops, and they take off that guy's mask, and they say, "Who are you?" And the guy says, "I am vengeance." Okay, now this is the theme throughout the film. Ooh, the theme. Okay, so in order to explain why this is a problem, you have to now understand the character of the Riddler. So it says right at the beginning of the movie, "Who is Batman? I'm vengeance," right? He's just on the streets and he's beating people up.
I'm vengeance.
And then people keep calling him Mr. Vengeance for no apparent reason.
Maybe they're calling that because he calls himself that when people ask who he is. Like, a name? That's the whole reason why people call you Ben Shapiro. They ask you your name, and you say Ben Shapiro. Your name might not even be Ben Shapiro. We don't know. Who are you?
Batman is beating up this follower of the Riddler's. He takes off his mask, and the guy says, "I'm vengeance." And suddenly Batman sees. Suddenly Batman realizes he can't be vengeance. That's not what he's meant to do. He's betrayed his mission.
No, Batman can still be vengeance. That is still something he can be, and that's something he still is. This is just reinventing his manifestation of vengeance.
So what is this movie about? This movie is about how fighting criminality does not actually help innocent people. He says this at the very beginning. He says, "I'm not sure I'm doing any good. I'm not sure I'm doing any good. By fighting the criminals, crime is still up." It turns out that Batman has to stop being Batman. Batman has been missing it the whole time. What Batman really has to be is Superman.
What? I will say it was kind of odd to see Batman helping people out and working with the National Guard, but I would much rather have Batman helping people than just to leave. Because that's one of the issues with Marvel movies, especially Age of Ultron. The Avengers blow up this entire city to foil Ultron's plans, but then after, they don't help people, they just kind of leave. I'm glad Batman is helping people instead of just leaving them on the roof of a circular building.
This really is a sort of attack on the idea that fighting crime helps innocent people. It's an almost defund the police attitude toward what crime is.
This is not a defund the police movie. If this was going to be a defund the police movie, they would make all the cops bad. But obviously not all the cops are bad in this movie. Batman even tells Jim that he's a good cop. I don't see any defund the police. Do you see it? Help me find it. Is it here? All right, we got our answer.
Because they take the fundamental idea of what Batman is supposed to be, the protector of the innocent who targets the criminal, and they say that if he targets the criminal, this makes him no different than criminals. Because Paul Dano, who's the Riddler, is also targeting criminals.
Yeah, the difference is the Riddler is murdering people. Batman's not a criminal. Well, he could be a criminal. The difference is the Riddler is going after people and murdering them in horrific ways. One guy he murders is eaten alive by rats. If you were to say Batman is the same thing as Riddler in that case, you're wrong. Batman doesn't have rats. He has bats.
So now Batman's mission is not beating up bad guys and stopping bad guys. Now Batman's mission is to be a firefighter.
Is Ben Shapiro saying firefighters aren't cool? Is Ben Shapiro saying defund firefighters? That's a bold move. That's very anti-conservative of you, Ben Shapiro. Yo, what up? Editor Andrew here. So I'm just gonna cut this short right now because the last part of this video was just me explaining why he just didn't get the theme of the movie, which isn't that big of a deal. And also he was nitpicking the plot in some areas, which I will agree with him. The plot in the last third of the movie is a bit rough. But I will leave you with this picture of Ben Shapiro having a Joker moment because I think it's just funny. Look at it. Look at him smile. But yeah, this video was supposed to come out a week ago, but that didn't happen because I've been obsessed with Daredevil recently because that came to Disney Plus and I wasn't going to buy Netflix. So yeah, I've been binging that, and you best know that I'm going to make a review about it because, oh boy, do I have thoughts on it. I'm not going to share my opinion now. I'm not going to show my hand. You're going to have to wait. So remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and leave me alone, please. Goodbye.